actually, this is going to impact, I mean, potentially not just hundreds of thousands, but millions of artists. Spotify is completely changing the way that they pay you royalties. And what they're saying and the way they're trying to sell this is that they'll be paying about $1 billion to artists. That sounds great, right? Well, it depends. And it depends on this definition of what they're calling a working artist. And so Spotify is saying they're only going to pay legitimate artists and right holders. So rights holders that, essentially fall within the new policies and these categories that we're going to go through. So actually, this is going to impact, I mean, potentially not just hundreds of thousands, but millions of artists. So the sales pitch is, hey, we're going to pay more money, but that might not be the case. So let's start with just talking about I kind of broke this into, there are probably three different policy changes, but we'll start with the most important ones. So policy number one is that Spotify is now making and implementing a minimum stream threshold before tracks can start generating royalties. Now, the way that I would kind of try to explain this is, do you guys remember with YouTube? At some point, they implemented you have to have a certain number of subscribers and you have to have like 4,000, watch hours in order to
To
be able to
monetize.
monetize. So in the same kind of way, Spotify now is going to require that you have so many plays before you can even get paid your royalties. And while a specific number was not announced, what people are speculating is that it might be something as low as 200, but probably more like 1,000. So let's start right there. What do you think about that?
Listen, there's been nothing since, the headlines of Spotify changing its royalty policies. And, it's always legendary just how little artists get paid per stream on Spotify. But I'm kind of, as I was reading a lot of the stuff, I didn't really see so much of a problem. If anything, it's going to encourage these artists to work harder to get their streams up so they can be earning money. I mean, I don't know how much money you expect to earn on, if you're getting less than 200 streams, like what paycheck you're expecting to make on of that. And so I think it's a good and thing incentive. I'm trying to take from the perspective of hustling these artists and get your streams up. Why do you have less than 200 streams if that's what the threshold is? Now, we're just speculating on what that is. It could be something outrageous, but that's just from an artist. Like, what are you doing?
Okay, and for me, I'm more on the side of I want to make sure that I don't care how many plays that you're getting, you should get paid your royalties because the way it works is that there's this misconception that you get paid per play. That's not how it
Mm-mm.
works, right? So do you want to explain that a little bit?
All their tracks, they go into this big pool of money, and then it's distributed based on your plays and just different deals and stuff you have. But it's not like you always see those figures where it's like 0.0008 or whatever it is for the what you're getting cost per stream, but that's not what it is. I mean, I think they're just trying to figure out what maybe it might kind of break down or feel like.
Right. So it's a big pool, and Spotify is essentially prorate. They're going to take their expenses off the top, but then they
Right.
prorate and they pay wherever the listens are going to. They're gonna pay. So now they're essentially creating this threshold of, well, you're not even in the pool of what's going
Right.
to get paid if you don't have a certain number of plays per track. So for someone who might have just a decent fan following, decent plays, but they don't meet whatever this threshold is, they're just not going to get paid. And so for me, I don't care if that's a few dollars or it's $100 over a period of time. Like everyone should get paid if they got the listens. So that's the first kind of pretty big change, and also in that, as far as talking about money, Spotify changed. So the premium went from $9.99 to $10.99
1099. Yeah.
and apparently didn't receive much pushback from this. And so Spotify will continue to likely increase that, but that money's not going to artists. That money's not being
Right.
calculated into this pool of how they are paid. So for me, I don't particularly like that.
They're talking about, with this, they're gonna get like 40 million that's gonna be kind of earned from just the money that's kind of that they're taking left over, and they wanted to start distributing that out. But just towards the more popular tracks. So the people, the ones that are working harder are gonna get kind of paid more.
Yeah, like Sebastian, he goes, I have a ton of streams. Spotify is always on the bottom of the quarterly payout info. I mean, of course. I mean, we already knew that artists probably are not getting paid what they should. But,
Well,
think about it. Spotify is ingesting about 3 million
right,
new
right.
songs per month. That means the great for, what they're selling this as. If they're like, well, the 0.5% at the bottom of the tier, those are the ones that aren't going to get paid. But now we can better distribute more money to everyone else, which is where they're like, well, there's $1 billion
Well, how do you get
essentially that we're going.
right? And so I mean, are you saying that if an artist earns 2 cents, you better, I mean, obviously make sure they get their 2 cents, I guess. But how do you want to pay them that? How are you going to, you know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of artists that just don't, I don't know. It's just Spotify is just so overrun with just, now you're hearing about AI artists and just these fake artists and things that just kind of pop up. And it's, we're gonna get kind of into that in one of the other new changes to the royalty payments. But there's just a lot of artists that just don't do anything. They don't have any kind of anything going on. They've never had a play. And so I think when you're a huge
Well, and
company
they
like that,
arguably wouldn't get paid, right? Again, I'm just advocating for whatever it is. I don't care if you got 20 streams, you should get
well,
paid for that.
I'm saying on 200, I'm saying we were talking about the number being like something like if the threshold is 200 and whatever. I don't even like 200 is going to be, I don't even know if that's going to even add up to a penny, for them. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Like,
Well, okay, and the other thing we think about, and because there's sanctions now, we're not going to talk about that just yet. It's going to be in the next section. But for distributors, this will impact distributors and labels who are getting paid directly from the music platforms because you guys don't know this. Distributors will earn your money because you forgot to add your bank account. Okay, so
right.
they're collecting money on your
And
behalf.
that's the
If
other thing. Artists don't even know to collect their money.
if you don't collect your money and it just sits there forever, at some point, your distributor takes your money. So not only is the distributor taking the money, they're going to be impacted by this, but they also take a fee from the music platform. So if all of the, let's say, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of the lowest tier artists who aren't getting as many streams, they don't meet the threshold, that
Mhm.
means that distributors aren't going to be able to take their share of the earnings from the artist. So distributors are going to be impacted too. Distributors are real businesses, labels are real businesses.
Absolutely. And distributors are, as we'll get into these next couple ones, but we're going to see how your distributor is going to even be more affected by some of these things that some of these artists are trying to do with their streams. Everybody's been making shakeups to the way that they're doing their payout systems. But Spotify being kind of like the leader, they are the best of all of the streaming services as far as their algorithms, as far as the way that they their playlisting, just everything that they do is really good. When I get stuff from Spotify, it's catered right to me. They hit it like I'm getting artists I have never heard of that are small artists and major artists. I think it gives a lot of great opportunity for artists and stuff like that.
The other big policy change here is having to do, I said sanctions because I'm a lawyer, fines. So record labels and distributors are now going to get fined by
Yes.
Spotify. And this is the ones who they're being real sneaky because not only do independent artists do this
Yes.
with juicing their numbers, paying
Yes.
AI, paying bots to get the numbers up, but record labels do this all the time for the biggest artists because they still have to, meet their quotas of numbers. Trust me. So anyway, now, Spotify is going to be
Yes.
implementing these fines, and it's to try to stop really, this ego boosting activity.
So if you guys are inflating your numbers, you better like just keep an eye on stuff. Things are they're going to be cracking down, and they're going to be finding the distributors at the level if they are finding you are doing fraudulent streams, if you are boosting, if you're using these stream farms or any other like AI tools, they're just going to remove your songs. They're just going to be gone. And then they're going to charge the distributor not based on an artist hit, but per song. So if you released an album worth of, songs and then you just did whatever, like your distributor is going to end up dropping you. And I'm just saying, like, this is where I think things are going to kind of become game changing, because when they start going off at the distributor, like it's when you're just on the street and you're just like, oh, hey, I just want to go ahead and upload my song to my distributor, and they'll just put it in there. And the distributor's like, sure, just give us your music, pay us your fee or whatever percentage we're going to do with you, and we'll put it in the system. But now if you're going to hit them and you're going to get fined because you're doing some shady stuff, they're just going to drop you, and you're going to
And
find
it's
it.
already happening. Look,
It's
guys,
already
as
right.
as as an entertainment law firm, this stuff is coming through my office all the time with artists who, in some cases, they accidentally are now lopped into this whole category. And so their songs are getting removed because they're like suspicious activity. I had a client who was doing, and we'll talk about this, but he was doing like sleepy time music, right?
Yeah.
And he got flagged because of how many hours of listening that he was getting. They're like, this looks so suspicious. But what he was doing was you sleep all night, you listen to
Right.
the track all night long. But
Literally what I did.
nonetheless, we had to fight over the thing I just talked to you guys about, which was he got kicked off the platform. The distributor kicked him out of the distributor account, and the distributor kept all of the money. And so
Right.
we had to fight. And I go, look, it's one thing in your terms of service agreement. They can, most distributors can just boot you out for any reason. They don't even have to explain, but they can't just take your money.
Your
And so
money,
it's
right.
really important. Like, don't take that. You need to absolutely make sure you get paid. But anyway, there are people who are doing it fraudulently.
So, but think about it. So there's, when you were hearing about these AI artists that are just making kind of like lo-fi music and they're just kind of just generating stuff because it's getting a lot of plays. Um, that we talked about before how it's not per stream, it's part of a big collective. So all of these things and all of these bots and all these things, the pools that's going in from listens from everything like that, like they're taking the money away also from the real artists. So it's like if the artists that should be getting more of a percentage or more healthy share of it are not getting paid also because these other artists are fake artists and fake plays and fake streams. They're getting some of the money.
All right, so let's talk about the money. There's one more thing I want to touch on with this, but great question, Sebastian. So, if we're essentially not getting paid, like what are the best ways to make sure you are collecting your money? So, write this down, people. We not only make money from our distributor who distributes the music to the music platforms, but we also get paid from our performance rights organization. It's different per country. So, like in the United States, we have ASCAP and BMI. So, you want to make sure you're registered for the composition side, the publishing. But then you also want to go and register on Sound Exchange, which is how you get paid for the non-interactive streaming for just stuff like SiriusXM and
Mhm.
Pandora. Okay. And then, I love Song Trust because this is a good way to get paid your public performance for other countries that you're not in because you are also making money in those territories. So write those down. Please make it on your to-do list, register your music, and you'll be good to go. So the last piece of this has to do with the non-music noise content because the way people are hacking Spotify is that if you get more than 30 seconds of listening time on a song, that's what
31, I think it's
triggers
yeah, 30, I think it's like 31, 30 or 31 seconds that triggers when it pays out or when it counts.
what like these sleepy time playlists will do is that they'll just make the
Mhm.
songs really short. And so you
They'll
are cranking through and getting paid. So they are, cracking down on this as well. If you remember at the beginning, I was like, they're paying the legitimate artists and rights holders.
Right. And so this is kind of interesting because this is just something that, I do. I sleep with rain sounds all the time. So I either have a playlist or I'll have like a song and I'll just literally put it on loop. And so I'm running that thing for like 8 hours. And I mean, those guys definitely need to get played because not all, sleep sounds or white noise sounds are created equal. Some of them are very annoying. I'm very meticulous as I go through and pick the ones that I do. I spent years on creating my sleep list. But yeah, no, these artists were just uploading, 31-second, versions. So people just have them loopable and they'll just loop them and they'll just play all night. And those are just, kicking out triggers. So they're going to be talking about times that they're going to, or talking about a new length of time that they're going to be setting. And some speculate could be up like 4 minutes or something like that for some of these tracks. Like they'll be in like a new category. And so, whatever the time is that they decide for these, what it kicks out the new trigger for these white noise ambient type sounds, but they're saying whatever it is that they decide to do for these artists that did do these 31-second songs, they're going to have to take down their songs and re-upload their songs
Hmm.
to if they want to get paid based on whatever that new time length is.
Hmm. All right, guys. So this is what is happening with Spotify. We definitely want your feedback. What do you think about this? Is it fair? Should everyone just still continue to get paid? Should there be some kind of gateway threshold in place where maybe not everyone should be paid because you're not kind of a real artist? Leave your comments down below. We'll see you on the next one.